All right. Bye.
Good morning, soccer fans. We hope you've got your cups filled with some tea because our cup of tea is ready to speak all things women's soccer with you. My name's Megan Warner, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts Katie Goodman and Harlie Ford. How are you both today?
Well, I'm pretty good. I got myself a little dog here hanging out. Yep. Her name's Maya.
The kisses.
I should have put Maya's introduction.
Yes,
and
right.
Maya.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's awesome.
Yes, the fourth co-host for today. She needs her own little square.
She has some very hot opinions
Puppy
about
cam.
women's soccer.
Oh, I bet.
Ready?
It's the little ones that are always the feisty ones, the little ankle biters, you know? Those are the ones.
Oh man, I'm covering her ears. I'm not letting her hear that. She's a perfect little dog.
She's a cutie.
Yeah. How you doing, Katie?
I got my matcha latte per usual. Trying to keep my eyeballs open this morning. We've got this. We do.
I know you were out quite late last night, Katie.
Yeah, I was. I was like, what is my problem? Like, why do I do this to myself? But you know what? I had a good time. I needed to like let loose a little bit, and so I had a good time. And now it's time to get back to business. You know?
Yeah. Good.
Saturday morning. Here we go.
Right. And first order of business is Afghanistan. So we all know what happened in Afghanistan. We talked about it, in the last episode, how the Afghanistan women's team had to flee the country, right? So we have even more news to follow up on that, on just how they made that possible. And that is because of their coach, Harlie Carter, who was a former Marine, and she used to be a goalie for the Houston Dash. So we have this article. We'll go ahead and post it on our Twitter later. So if you want to read the whole thing about the whole story of how they were able to escape. But she pretty much said it was almost like coaching them, like she had done on the field. So she talks about how she was having to correspond via text, via like a burner phone with one of the players, and how they had to go through all of these things. But ultimately, it really was them working as a team to get out of there in time. And it's just really crazy to think, as a soccer player, like having to flee your country because like you could get burned at the stake for your sport, like Jesus. So I just think about that a lot, and I think about how lucky we are to just be able to talk about it, to fight for it, to really push the bar forward here. Whereas their voices have been completely silenced. In fact, in Afghanistan, all women's sports have been banned. So it's like there's just absolutely no hope for women in sports there. And it's gotten to the point where even other countries are beginning to stand up against it. So there was there's supposed to be a cricket match between Australia and Afghanistan, and they have threatened to cancel the match if they don't allow women to participate also in cricket. So, I mean, while it's good to see other governments taking a stand, I don't know. Do you think that's really gonna, like, I don't know that that's gonna do anything. I don't know that if that's gonna, really push the bar forward there. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see, and we had talked about last time also having a way to support this women's soccer team. And so if you go to soccerwithoutborders.org/Afghanistan, you can actually donate there. You can see what they're up to. You can see, how their organization is doing here. So I highly suggest you go to that link, follow, give it a share, keep making noise about it so that these women feel supported. Because the worst thing you can do during a time like this is they're getting this big rush of coverage, but what's going to happen in a month or two or in 6 months or in a year? Like, we need to make sure that they have refuge, that they have a place where they can play, where they can do their things. I mean, it doesn't matter what country you're from. If you're playing for your country, like, that is an honor, and it needs to be, it needs to be something that they're able to do because they deserve it, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, do you think that if all countries take a stand against Afghanistan in general, that it could make something happen? Like, this is the fine line between local and global politics, right? So, like, in what's right, and so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, the
know.
fastest way to enact change is to start threatening the men and taking away their toys. So, you know.
Right, right. Yeah,
When I
that's
saw
solid
the
point.
news about the cricket, I was like, yes, like this is the sort of stand that I think is going to be able to start making that impact. But
Right.
it's going to take a lot more, you know.
Yeah,
It's
I
gonna
think
take
with,
all the countries, I think, just like not wanting to work with them. Like, don't be that jerk in the office, you know? And
yeah, I
you
just
know, or we're gonna like shun you. You can't sit with us.
I think something that's important to recognize as well is like the work that Haley Carter did. I think that shows like just how connected we all are, and you know the story happening in Afghanistan, even though it's very very far away geographically, it's not far away in our hearts, you know. So just keeping those women in mind as much as you can, I think that's really really important, and it'll prove like how much compassion can do in a situation, and you know regardless of what they're going through, like they're going to find support. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And Haley Carter is such a boss, right? I'm like, first off, former Marine, and then a keeper for the Houston Dash, and now she's saving women's lives. Like, what can't she do? You know,
Yeah.
like, that's so amazing, and it's so great that they have a role model like that,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how you know, pave the way. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Definitely. So in some more uplifting news, on August 29th, a new record was set for the most fans watching an NWSL game. So it was in OL Reign's match against the Portland Thorns, a whopping 27,248 fans watched the Reign earn a 2-1 victory. I mean, that's an incredible turnout at Seattle's Lumen Field. Like, I just am so over the moon to hear this kind of a news that the game is growing, people want to watch, and they're making it happen. They're getting out to these games and they're showing their support. And what was kind of interesting about this game is that it was actually a double header, this kind of new feature that was first of its kind, where 2 NWSL teams played and then 2 MLS teams followed up playing after in the Seattle Sounders and the Portland Timbers. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see if this is kind of a new thing that we start to see, where NWSL and MLS teams kind of come together and, you know, integrate their sales and their ticketing and their matches to kind of increase the level of attendance and increase the support that's shown for both sides.
Right.
What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd love to see them merge their fan bases. I think the best way forward for all teams, especially when, you know, you have an established franchise, is to work together, you know, to act as though you're separate entities. I think that's pulling away from the overall ability of the club to encourage people to come see the product that they're putting out on the field. If you're not merging, like you're just distancing yourself from opportunity. So I'm excited to see if like other teams follow in suit and, you know, try and uplift their women's programs as much as their men's.
Right, yeah. I mean, you're going to get a lot further if you work together. And this is where it comes into the allyship thing, you know, like, and I've seen a lot of stuff coming off of ESPN FC, Fox Soccer, talking more about NWSL than they ever have before on their socials. And I love seeing that, but sometimes I look through those comments and I'm just like, are you serious? Like, how are some of these old soccer dudes still so antiquated? Like, I've seen things like, oh, stop talking about this on your platform. This is a men's platform and da-da-da. It's like,
Don't you have something better to do?
Go kick rocks. Yeah, go kick rocks because you probably can't kick a soccer ball. Like, I don't know. I'm just like,
yeah.
Don't even. I'm like, I'm going to go cowgirl, keyboard girl over here. I'm like, let's go. Get all feisty.
I said
no.
on Instagram a recent post that was Sky Sports News tweeting about the Women's Super League and like comments that they got from people, again, just sort of saying, why are you putting this on this men's sports account? And their responses were great. Their responses were like, you know, this is sports, women's sports, men's sports, all sports. Like,
yeah, I saw that.
I love that, you know, these big accounts that have so much big of a following are standing up and making the right moves and saying, you know, everybody deserves the coverage. We're a sports account and we will cover sports, whether that's men's or women's. I was actually watching Watford's like pre-game show because they have a match coming up. It's called Hive Live, and I was really impressed that they began to talk about the Watford women's team who played at the stadium while the men's were on international break. So, you know, that was a great way to kind of give Watford fans a game at the stadium when the men's team were on international break. And I love that they kind of spent a good amount of time talking about the women's team, talking about that game, and just giving them the attention and the coverage that they deserve, which is just only going to help the game grow. So I'm here for the merging of fan bases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
But also speaking of coverage, I guess, our final piece of news is that the championship match has been announced. It's going to be held on November 20th at the Portland Thorns Stadium in Providence Park. The issue that I think quite a few people are talking about is that it's kicking off 9 a.m. Pacific time.
I can't, y'all. I can't.
That is just like, it's not even close to prime time.
It's like we were doing so well.
I know.
We were doing so well.
We're talking about, we love like this increase of media, like this increase of support, like we're really seeing the game grow, and then they throw this in there and it's like, people,
9 a.m. There you go. Enjoy.
I can't remember who it was, but she was like, hey, 5 a.m. pre-match sounds great. And I was just like, oh, how I feel for you. Like, these girls are going to be up at like 4 a.m. just trying to like fuel and then like to get ready for the game. Like, just how do you not know this, people? How do you not know that you just don't play at 9 a.m.?
Well,
like,
I mean, it's not even about that, really. I think it's about the fact that it's going to impact viewership. I mean,
too, yeah.
The whole argument is like, you know, women aren't like the whole pay system is based on, you know, viewership and ratings, and, you know, you're trying to make money and then you put it at 9 a.m. and that's just, you know, you've just probably halved the number of people that are going to be able to watch it. I mean, like,
totally.
I'm not going to be up at that time. It's 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe I'll be up, but
yeah,
I will be up.
I did convert it into Eastern and Central time because I was like, oh, if anybody knows me, I am terrible at time difference. Having moved to Florida, moved to Kansas, moved to Iceland, you would think I would get time difference, but I don't. I always am Googling it. So I Googled it. It's 11 a.m. Central time and 12 p.m. Eastern, which is better, but it's still nowhere near prime time. Like, I was expecting, let me convert it into, you know, Central and Eastern, and maybe it's 4, 5 o'clock. That's why they did it. But no, it's nowhere near prime time. And I almost feel like they're sort of saying, hey, you guys woke up at crazy times during the Olympics. You can do it again. And it's like, no, just put it on when everybody's going to be...
It's in the States now. We get a little say over it.
Right? Jesus. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I'm over it, y'all. I'm just like, and it's our championship. You know, it's a championship match. Like, it's not just any match that we're getting upset over. Like, it's the NWSL, the highest league you can play in the United States, championship, and you can't give us prime time. Not cool with it. Mm-mm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that is all for our news section today. And now we are going
Lots of news.
Lots of news. Lots of drama. We love to talk about it all. This is the platform to do it. And yeah, we are spilling the tea indeed.
Yes.
So this week on the show, we decided that we should do a Q&A. So we put it out onto Twitter and Instagram, asking for your questions and some of the topics that you want us to talk about. And we'd love you to continue to get involved. We have the live comment section. So if, as you're watching this, you think of a question, please comment and we'll definitely try to answer it within the show. We love having community involvement. We love being able to interact with our viewers and creating this women's soccer community where it's filled with positivity and just trying to grow the women's game. So, Harlie, why don't you start us off with the first question?
This was sent in by Mark Ford, owner of Unity FC, my dad. He asks, do you feel that NWSL supports the advancement of women in sport and truly supports equality and opportunity for women to reach the top level of soccer in America? And he goes on, this is not only as a player, but importantly as executives, owners, and employees. The odds of being a professional player are very slim, but there are many more opportunities within the game that don't involve playing. So including like roughing, staff. So it's just talking about that scenario where like the NWSL seems to lack, behind the scenes in terms of like how they're uplifting women, and then just, are they actively supporting the advancement of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting question. And I mean, we just kind of spoke about how the NWSL has put this championship game at a time that is not really going to help us advance in the strides that potentially we could. If the game was at 5 o'clock, we all believe that the viewership would be increased. So in that sense, we've just spoken about an issue where I feel like the NWSL could do more.
Right.
I remember seeing an article talking about, I don't remember what league it was, but it was talking about how she was one of the first female refs for, I think I want to say it was Champions League maybe, or it was either Champions League or MLS. I don't remember where I saw it, but I remember thinking, like, why is this just now a headline? Like, why is this person just now, or why is this a big deal, And it's because, like, there really isn't that representation in all of those other parts. And I just did a quick Google because I was trying to, like, fact check myself so I could give it to you. And one of the top things that popped up was the top 10 sexiest female refs. And so I'm like, okay, put women in sports, and then now you want to sexualize this too? Like, dude, I don't know. Like, I'm wondering when things will change. But, I think sex sells. So I think women are probably going to be sexualized for a long time. But, I don't know. I can't really, there's a couple of, because, I do a little bit of, like, work with the MLS, like, interviewing people, and I've seen where there are a couple of women there who are, like, their communication directors and things like that. So it's really good to finally see, like, okay, like, what, like, you're finally giving women, like, executive roles, like, in these organizations. And then, of course, there's people like Mia Hamm paving the way and like, helping to, like, actually purchase men's clubs and things like that. So, I don't know. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah. I think, like, it's important not to, like, get too down on the league because, like, they have provided an opportunity for women to play, but also, I would love to see if they turned around in their communities and supported, like, their local clubs. Like the UWS, like, it's not just like some tiny organization, it spans across the entire country. And as we saw with the championship game, like 8,000 people were watching that. It's not something that people don't know about. And so, to turn around in your backyards and just, not support soccer there as well, I think that's an issue as well, because like it's already so limited to be a professional player in America. I mean, there are 13 teams, so that's a very limited roster spot for the thousands of players that exist in America. So if you're not going to increase the number of franchises that you have in your league, then maybe you can uplift, the teams that are there and are accessible for other players. I don't know. I mean, it happened with us in Florida. Like there's a team, Central Florida, I don't know, professional team, and we've tried reaching out a couple times, just trying to like form a connection, form a relationship, and it's just like dead space. There's nothing there,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think in terms of that, grassroots soccer is like a little bit overlooked on that side, and they could definitely be doing more.
Yeah, I agree, and I think when it comes down to the individual roles, we're still playing catch up, like what we've spoken about, and we're going to continually see more women being involved in all different aspects, whether that's, doing sales, doing marketing, as an executive, coaching roles, all of that stuff. Like it's going to continue to develop. But I think that's a really interesting point you make, Harlie, that I think that is an area where the NWSL could really support the advancement of women in sport. Like the advancement of women in sport is going to come from that grassroots level and making the game accessible and bringing it to communities to kind of promote it in all areas. So in that sense, I think that's where the work could really be done, because I think the roles of women is going to increase because we can see it's happening now. But that's a really interesting point that you made.
Definitely. And I really love it too, because I mean 8,000 viewers, like what TV network wouldn't want those viewers? And it's bringing it up to them too, like letting them know that, like, hey, this, like, there's something here, like it's something that you do want to cover. But how do you even make that connection with these networks if you just have that, you've never even been there yet? So like, yeah, we really do have to rely, unfortunately, on a lot of those professional level teams in order to get us there. And speaking of, professional, it's not just the NWSL. There's also, women can play in the Champions League, out over in Europe. So what is interesting about this is Tobin Heath from the U.S. women's national team actually just got signed to Arsenal. She has 177 caps. She scored 35 goals for the U.S. women's team. And so they've signed her over there. And, something we were talking about earlier, and I know Megan has a lot to say about this too, is, the difference between the leagues here or in the leagues there. And typically in the men's world, men, like the golden, box that they want to check off is playing in the Champions League. It's kind of like MLS, then Champions League, like everyone's trying to make their way over to Europe. And so my question was, is it the same? Like, is that, because the U.S. is known for really good soccer. But yeah, so I don't know, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think is the ultimate goal for women's soccer? Is it to play in the U.S. or is it to go into the Champions League?
Right? Yeah,
right?
I feel like it really depends upon the person. Some people have desires to play for specific clubs. Like everybody has their own dream and goal within soccer. And I feel like it kind of comes in a kind of tiered system in a sense. For me, I think women's soccer, it's really huge honor to be able to play for your national team. So tournaments like the World Cup and the Olympics in women's soccer, that's a huge thing. Not really as big of a deal in the men's world. But those two, for me, are like the kind of dream that I think a lot of players have. If you speak to your U8 teams in the local area, that's the kind of stage that they're looking towards. And that's the stage that really gets the most coverage when it comes to women's football. So that kind of makes sense. And then I think it comes to Champions League and the NWSL. For me, growing up, playing in America was always such a big deal. The amount of coverage, the amount of money that gets put into it is really, really great. And so I think that's kind of where the NWSL kind of gets such a high reputation, because it's really been a pioneer in women's leagues.
Yeah, agreed.
Champions League is really kind of coming up now for women. I feel like it hasn't really got as much attention, and in recent years, this is when people are actually paying attention to the tournament and people are invested and they want to watch the game. So I think now that's kind of becoming a thing. So somebody like Tobin Heath, who, she's done the Olympics, she's done World Cup, she's played in the NWSL, it seems natural that she would want to make her mark in the Champions League, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just drop in there, that was about Tobin Heath, Ryan Feigert, I think that's how you say it.
That question was from Ryan Feigert. He was our social media guy for the Athenians. I was like, great pointed question, because I'm tired of getting questions like, what's your Snapchat? How do I take you on a date? No, I want to hear women's soccer questions. Come on, people. Yes. No, so that was, yeah, solid question by Ryan there. Thank you so much for that. And just going back to it, like we were talking earlier before the show, and Tobin Heath is 33 years old, and so we're already starting to hear things about her age, and they signed a 33-year-old to the Champions League, but it's actually totally ridiculous because, we have Carly Lloyd now, like, clearly she has proven that age is not such a big deal, right? So, there's things like that I think about it when you see the media, but, I heard something the other day that was like, that's the media's job, is to find any angle that's different to talk about than what someone else is talking about. So, like, part of it, sometimes I wonder if the people writing these articles, if they even think these things, or if they're just trying to find another form of clickbait or, like, just another angle at this point, just finding something more or different to talk about. So, but not only that, but she signed with Nikita Perry and Beth Mead. So it's going to be a good team. It's going to be good.
Yeah, so what kind of interested me about the signing of Tobin Heath, and I'm looking from, like, Arsenal's perspective, not necessarily Tobin Heath as a player achieving this or being 33 years old, which, like, media's media, like, at least women's soccer is in the media.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Bad coverage is good coverage. True. Still.
But yeah, Arsenal already have Nikita Paris and Beth Mead, who are both playing that kind of similar role to Tobin Heath, like, very experienced in that position. They play for the women's England national team. So I was kind of surprised when Arsenal announced this, because I'm like, how much depth do you really want in these positions? And I mean, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch, because these ladies they're going to be fighting for this position. So if, like, the level is only going to increase, which is a great thing. But as an actual signing, I was surprised, because I didn't necessarily think they particularly needed more depth within that area.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, instead of thinking about, like, the impact on the field, maybe thinking, like, what she's bringing off the field. I think Tobin's very marketable. So, like, definitely going to sell a lot of jerseys. I know a lot of little girls look up to her, so.
100%, and the experience that she's going to bring as well to all those players, and kind of
absolutely.
Arsenal are very much trying to set a really strong culture within their club. So I think Tobin Heath is an ideal person to be able to do that. So yeah, I mean, definitely not knocking the signing. I was just a little bit surprised when you look at the current squad.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they utilize her on the field.
Yes, 100%. Right. So our next question that came in was actually from my boyfriend Armani, and he asked, what is your favorite goal that you have ever scored, and your favorite goal of all time?
As a defender, this is a question that hurts me.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I'm like, dang, I have to go way back on this one. Yeah.
This is a revealing kind of goal, because it probably was inadvisable that I was on the field in the first place. I had a concussion, and they put me up top, and it was like we were in a tournament, and I don't know how it happened, but I was up top, had a concussion, but I was there. I was like, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna just play. Just let me in, coach. I'm gonna play. I'm gonna make a difference. And I got up top, and the keeper made, like, a serious error right in front of the box. Like, it was a goal kick, and I think she just, like, passed it to me. Almost. I was like, really, is this happening? And I just did, like, a one-touch in with my left foot and sunk it in the back of the net, and that was, like, the game-winning goal. I got pulled off the field, like, 5 minutes later because, I was concussed. But
yeah, I am remember the story.
I know.
Yeah.
So the fact that I, under great mental duress, I scored the game-winning goal that ended up with there's a very large trophy in our house now. So
I love these cameos of you going at center forward. I just love it.
I know. I just like, maybe you need to keep you up there.
Oh man, it's so funny because I don't really like. I know what the role is expected or whatever, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just going to run as hard as I can and hopefully something goes somewhere. And it did that time, so.
Oh my god, that's how I feel about it. Anytime they put me in forward, I'm like, oh, I'm just so awkward. I'm like, I feel like I should run here, but there, but what's happening, you know?
I've learned my bending runs, my loops.
Yeah, the bending.
You know?
Yeah, the bend. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If I have to, you know, I'd always rather, if I'm gonna have to attack, I'd rather be center mid. You know, like that way I can like help create play and be there for the drop shot. That's what I used to do in high school, and so yeah, I used to play that position. And I actually, one of my favorite goals is ridiculous. I scored from like half field, like the circle. I just Hail Married it. And it went right over the keeper into the goal. And we were like, yeah! But it was 100% a Hail Mary. Freaking made it, though. So I'm like, whatever. And then a little bit after that, we ended up tying because of that goal. And so we went to, like, PKs, and I scored a PK or whatever in the end. And so, you know, I don't know. I think that was, like, the craziest game. It was, like, starting to rain. We just went crazy. It got us into, like, you know, the regional championship. We were like, ah, just totally wild, you know? So
awesome.
That's, yeah. And then there was one also that was an accident. But I scored as like a bicycle kick, but I like kind of slipped / was kind of trying to do it, and I like wipe out, and it just like bounces, you know, like slowly. It was not like an MLS bicycle kick, yeah, or something. It was just like boop boop boop, and I was like, sweet, we made it. Whatever it takes, right? So yeah, those are like some of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like when I got this question from him, I was like, I'm actually very intrigued because my two co-hosts are defenders. So what kind of goals do they have?
I do have goals.
Yeah, I love that. For me, I think my favorite goal that I've ever scored, which, yeah, it's hard. I feel to pick, like, not that I've scored like that many, but like I feel like it is really hard to pick. But I'm gonna go with my favorite goal is the one that's my dad's favorite goal. It's the one that if he's talking to anybody and he wants to show them a video, this is his go-to video. We were playing at Eastern Florida State for the conference tournament. So I think it was like the semi-final game of the conference tournament. And the facilities and the media coverage at Eastern Florida is always really good. And this was my freshman year of college. And it was kind of the first time that we had really good coverage. So like we had replays, we had multiple camera angles, and I feel like that just made this goal even better.
Because you had so much coverage of it. It was just like
yeah, it was like multiple angles. Here we go. State, I scored from outside the box, just like a driven shot into sort of like top corner, right side. And then after, so one of my friends was like, Megan, like if you score, like have to dab. And I've actually cut this out of the video that is on my social media because, you know, as I look on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I actually dab? But dabbing was a thing at the time.
Oh my god!
After I scored, the commentator's like, and she dabs! And then
That's
so
awesome.
All around, like, everything just makes that like the best, the funniest goal that I've scored.
That is the best celebration of all time. Just like knowing who you are, Megan. I don't think I've ever seen you dab actually, like in real life.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very out of character thing. I'm very like understated, and like I'm scored, and like my whole family is watching back in England, and the commentator's like, and she dabs in the most American accent you've ever heard, and I was like,
that's the best story ever. Can you need to make sure you share that later.
Yeah, we're gonna need to see that one. Yeah, especially if you've got a link with all that coverage. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I used to do the whole like, it's called like Party Boy dance. So I can't even remember what this show is called. It's the one where they're always in like the shopping cart and they're doing stupid stuff and stunts with
Supermarket
Steve-O.
Sweep. Oh
no, Steve-O.
Oh.
I'm like, everyone knows the show where they just act like idiots. I can't remember.
Is it Jackass?
Yes, Jackass. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So you know that one guy, they always call him Party Boy, who's like walking around in a diaper and like going like this. So, like, there was, like, this big inside joke that we had on the team. So, I would, like, grab my shorts, hike them up, and then be like, party boy. Like, it was the dumbest shit ever. But, like, I don't know. It just makes scoring that much better. You know, like, when you have, like, your celebration to go to after the fact.
Yeah,
great.
now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember if I celebrated or not after I scored, so...
You were probably... Well, if you were concussed, then you probably were like, did that just happen or not?
Yeah, I don't...
In my imagination.
I don't really remember the moments after that goal, so...
Oh, no.
It's fine.
This is actually a conversation my boyfriend and I had about, like, celebrations, which in the men's game and, like, boys growing up, like, when they're playing, like, the celebration is, like, it. Like, the amount of times these people run to the corner, and my boyfriend's like, why does nobody ever run to the corner, like, once you score? And I'm like,
yeah,
there's nobody at the corner. Like, you guys have just watched, you know, in professional, when you've got a stadium full of fans, like, you run over to that corner and you celebrate in front of your fans. That's, like, the thing, especially in away matches. Like, you run over to where your fans are and you celebrate in front of them. And the men's game has, like, taken that at all levels. And, you know, I love seeing it. Like, whenever I'm coaching camps or something, I'm like, you get an extra goal for the best celebration. Like, embrace it. I love it. And it's something that the women's game just doesn't quite do so much. You know, after somebody score, we all kind of hug and we high five.
Yeah.
But we don't really go into these deep...
No proper sellies.
Yeah, and I kind of want to start this. Like, can we get some celebrations? The men's soccer team where I work, they actually, like, they scored and they all went over to the corner. They all, like, tucked in their shirts and, like, got down in a pose, and one was like this. And then the referee was like, come on, move it along. And I'm like, no, let them do the celebration.
Yeah, I mean, we got the iconic Alex Morgan sipping tea, which is our logo, but...
Yeah, you know, that's true.
Yeah, or the Rapino. Just the... Me.
Yes.
It's just me.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But no, I agree,
so
Meg.
True,
it'd be cool
though.
To be creative.
I never put those two and two together, you know, like, you're so right. I know, I'm like, whoa, like, they run to the corner, they run to their fans, they're like beating their chest, taking their damn jersey off. We're over here like, oh, good job, all right, get back, you know, make it happen.
Yeah,
like,
really young, there's
very
no
on
fans
task.
there. They will always go to a corner to celebrate, no matter if there's people there to cheer them or not. And I feel like we need to empower women and girls to start celebrating their goals even more.
Yeah, get silly. Dab out there.
Let's
like,
get video.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. All right. Our next question is from Jonathan Ward, Mr. UWS. He asked us a question about the quality of facilities in women's soccer and just, you know, are they enough? Like, what can be done? And when I read this question, the first thing that I thought of was, like, the drama that happened with Sky Blue FC, like, way back when the franchise just opened up. And the question of their facilities was, like, such a hot button topic for so long because they, at the end of the day, like, it wasn't enough. Like, players didn't understand, like, their housing situation was unorganized, their travel situations were unorganized, and then even at the field, at the facilities, like, their ability to change in private locker rooms, that was non-existent. And that was, like, it's a professional club. Like, you are getting paid to play this game. You just put everything on the line. Like, maybe you've flown across the country to be a part of this organization. Maybe you're flying in from another country to be a part of this organization, and you had to get changed in, like, a shed. So I think, I mean, I love Sky Blue FC. I think that they've done some very critical changes to their organization. They listened to their fans, they listened to their players, and I think that they've done massive steps to make sure that they're a better organization today. But I mean, that does go to show, like, starting out, like, it was very difficult for them to provide a platform or an organization that was worthy of being called professional, you know, when it didn't really seem to reflect professionalism. And
on one hand, I guess you can look at it like, you know, with the funding that they had, it's amazing that they were able to get this professional club set up, because clearly they didn't have the money to be able to do it at the top level with the top facilities. So, like, it's good that they did that, but at the same time, like, we need funding and we need to ensure that players are being treated how they should be treated, you know?
Yeah.
So it's definitely an interesting point, the quality of facilities. And I feel like looking back at my time when I was playing at Watford for the academy, we trained at my high school. Like that was our like home ground, really great facilities. You know, we had a huge turf. We also had like numerous pitches to play on, grass pitches, and then we also had the sort of locker room if you needed to see the physio, the athletic trainer. You could go in there. You weren't having to be treated out in the cold because, you know, England, it might have even been raining. But compared to the Watford Men's Academy, they were training at Watford's training ground in London Colney with the top class facilities that the men's professional team were getting. And the women had to train at a totally different facility that was not on par with the same standards. Now the women actually do train. I don't think it's the entire academy, but it's making positive steps because the women's first team and the reserve team do train at the training ground, which is great to see. And again, that kind of comes down to that integration and that we talked about between the men and women's clubs. But yeah, quality of facilities, it's a very interesting topic.
For sure, and a lot of it does come down to that funding, you know. It was the same situation for me at college. So I played at Mississippi State, as we all know, and our locker room was actually an old locker room that basketball used to have. So we were in the basketball stadium. We'd have to like walk across the street to go to our field, and like I can't complain because it was a nice locker room. Like, you know, we had like everything we needed. But it was also a little bit small. Like we needed a little bit more space for like watching game tape and stuff. So we'd have to go elsewhere to watch game tape and all of that. But it was like definitely a little bit older. And of course, like 2 years after I leave, they finally get their big, pretty, you know, soccer locker room at the field that they had been promising since we signed. But that's okay. You know, it's good to see the glow up happening. I'm glad they finally got their space. But the fact of the matter is it's going to be time before people, you know, start being able to fund these women's soccer programs, especially ones that are newer or ones that are maybe in like lower league soccer. I feel like they kind of get looked over because, you know, we all know America, it's like NBA, it's NFL, like it's more about those kinds of sports, men's sports, you know. And not to mention there's like at a lot of, at least in the SEC, and I think this is actually across the board, there's the whole Title IX rule. So, like, sometimes that's why there's a women's soccer team, but not a men's soccer team. They have all of these other men's sports that, you know, they find take precedence over men's soccer, and then, you know, over here in the female sports, it's, you know, just whatever women can play. So it's like women's soccer tends to fall into that category. So, you know, I think it's also hard to compare because if you don't have both a men's and a women's team, you can't be like, well, the men are getting this and we're getting that. You're trying to compare yourself to football, who is like the highest grossing sport at the university, or basketball, you know. So it's like a weird kind of in between place, you know. It's like you want to be happy because like, okay, good, I'm seeing a lot of better facilities pop up around. But, like, at the end of the day, we're probably going to be, like, one of the last to get some of the best facilities. And not just women's soccer, but women's softball, you know, like, all those other sports, too.
You just reminded me of, you know, the college that Megan and I went to. So, it's a smaller school, and so, obviously, like, you know, funding is a little bit different there and a little bit wonky. But I would say it's very much a sports school. Everyone who goes there, like, plays a sport, and pretty much all the sports kind of get the same like amount of recognition, but our football team has their own like entire building for athletic training. Their locker, like it's like they have their own like ice tubs up in there. And then women's soccer, we had to share our locker room with like the softball team, and there were like these white couches, and you'd come in and they'd be caked in like orange clay, and it's just like, you know, you're just, I don't know, I totally like, you know, you get these like state of the art facilities for like the football team, and then like you gotta like share your orange caked clay couch with the softball team if you're a women's soccer player. I don't know. I know it has to do with like what you're making money and whatnot, but the school itself, like, I don't know. I think in that specific scenario, I don't think that like any of the teams were making that much money. So
yeah,
I don't know.
No, but you make a good point, like, because we also had to share with, like, football as well for their weight room, we had, like, an indoor turf field. We had to, like, always work around their schedule. So, like, we would have really weird lifting times or really weird running times. And sometimes I think, I'm like, how did they even do that? Because, like, not only were we working around, like, football schedule, but we were working around our actual class schedules. So I think that was, like, actually kind of, like, when I think about it, a work of art that we were even able to, like, get in there and share with these people. But yeah, so I don't know, like, also one of the first things that pops up for me as well is the whenever I read that question was the NWSL championship match is on a turf field as well, you know, so it's like,
Katie, you're muted.
We lost her.
Oh
no.
You're on mute. Yes.
Okay. Did my internet freeze just there? Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know. I was going on and on, then I was like, nobody's moving. So I don't know what I talked about last.
Last we heard is just that the NWSL championship game is on a turf field.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Pretty much.
Yeah.
NWSL is on a turf field, and so, I don't know. We got a long way to go.
Yeah, we could probably have a whole show dedicated to talking about the difference between, like, artificial turf and proper grass and
right. Yeah. And the difference, why we prefer one over the other. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
we could probably also have a whole show about traumatic brain injuries too, Harlie. Like, once you're like, my concussion, I'm like, who hasn't had a concussion in soccer? That's the real question, you know? You haven't? You haven't had a concussion?
No.
She's got a perfect brain. How does it feel to have all
lucky
the brain
duck,
cells
and
you were
you're
born
a forward?
With?
Wow.
Yeah,
right.
I miss my brain cells, Megan.
Yeah, I definitely have a few screws loose, no doubt. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's an interesting subject.
Yeah.
But yeah,
for next time.
We have, yes, definitely for next time, we will continue this discussion about the facilities because there's such an array of facilities around the world. You know, you've got some incredible facilities like FC Austin Elite's Round Rock multi-complex facility is incredible. So there is some places where it's great, and then there's some where it needs improvement, and then you've got the turf in comparison to the grass, and we could go on and on. So we will definitely save this subject to be continued. But thank you everybody for sending in your questions. We've absolutely loved answering them, and we hope that you've enjoyed the answers and kind of getting involved in the Q&A. As always, we would like to give a special shout out to Jonathan Ward and to the UWS and the UWS2 for helping us bring this live show to your screens. And if you haven't already, please follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow your hosts individually, so you can stay up to date with all things women's soccer. It's been a great show. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.